computer. It's nice when you got terabytes of space on your computer. Okay, this is Ron Watson with Astrology, and the date is September 10th, and we've been doing this for several months, and we have some very adept students with us today. We have Destiny, who is brightens up our day, and she's been with me for many years, actually, her mother as well. Her mother studied astrology with me. We got Vanita, and of course we've got Jared, who is a chief student here. He came on with us a few months ago and we're working together. And he's been blessed with the access to my previous students, Vanita and Destiny, who have worked with him as well. The nice thing about the collective group is that everybody can help each other, and we can all grow together and expand our knowledge together. And I've been doing this for 50 some years, but I've never reached a point where I know it all. I'm surely not a know-it-all, but I have a lot of particular information that is very, I think, privileged for students to learn, because it gives them an edge up on this science of astrology, and actually allows them to begin to perfect and work with clients in a very, very quick way. And also from my book, The Cosmic Key, they're learning something that no one else teaches. And that's on Amazon. The book is called started with the other book. It's The Cosmic Key to Astrological Predictions. And that book will teach you how to become very predictive and very able to understand what's going on in a person's chart and a future orientation. And then the other book I'll recommend for all of you is The Greatest Story Never Told. Again, it's on Amazon. And that book will change your life if you really read it from cover to cover. The Greatest Story Never Told is a book that encapsulates astrology, mythology, psychology, and scriptures. And it reveals all the things the church would rather you not know about the Bible, and what the early Christians were really teaching and what they knew. How Saturn became Satan, and how Zeus is the archetype for Jesus, Jesus. And so, what the ages are really about astrologically, the Aquarian age, when the sign of the Son of Man appears in heaven. That's Aquarius. It's not some man flying out of the clouds, as some Christians believe, that's going to descend down to earth. So he's the pourer out of spirit that the scriptures talks about. When the sign of the Son of Man appears in heaven, then shall all the tribes of earth mourn. In the last days I'll do what? I'll pour out my spirit upon all flesh. Your sons and daughters will prophesy, your old men will dream dreams, young men will see visions, and even my handmaids in those days I shall pour out my spirit, and they too shall prophesy. So that's just a little bit of what the book's about. So if you want to understand astrology and the true mysteries, I highly recommend the book. So that's the end of the commercial. So anyway, we have a lot of fun here. I would love to have you join us eventually if you have an astrological inkling and some knowledge. We'd love to have you on board with us. So right now, what I want to do is I want to turn the meeting over to one of our very adept students, and her name is Vanita. And Vanita will take us through a little bit of the cosmic key and some of the work she's done on Queen Elizabeth, who is an interesting story. Several days before Queen Elizabeth died, Vanita, I had asked her to work up some celebrity charts. And she said to me when she returned the message, she said, I think I'll do Queen Elizabeth's chart. This is before she passed away, amazingly. And I wrote her back and I said, you know, Queen Elizabeth died today. and she just was freaked because that's amazingly, I'd say very prescient about her. She tends to be online with a lot of things that are supernatural to me. So she has worked that up. And Vanita, can I turn it over to you?
Yeah, sure. She had been on my radar since she got COVID last year. So I think that kind of, I kind of stayed in tune with that. Okay, actually, Gerald and Destiny, you guys have this up as well. Ron, how about, can I send you this cosmic key and we can get it up on the screen?
Yes, go ahead and get it over, and I'll do that.
All right, give me
Okay.
just a second. And I was actually going to ask Gerald and Destiny about the discussion that they had yesterday. I think they went over some things I wasn't able to attend, but I wanted to, if it's okay with you, kind of first inquire what they found or saw during their discussion. Is that okay while I send this over to you really quick?
Sure.
All right, so I'm getting this over to Ron.
So Jared, what did you guys discover when you were doing the chart on Queen Elizabeth?
Yeah, so first the first thing that we did was just look at her basic natal chart, because neither of us were really familiar with how her natal chart was, just to get an idea for the kind of woman that she was and what kind of, things that she had been going through. And we definitely arrived at a few, interesting concepts about her, just from looking at the planet placement and some of the aspects that she has in her natal chart. And then after we looked at those things, we then turned to the cosmic key and looked at, the three different witnesses as they appear in her chart. And we found some more interesting things. So generally speaking, yeah, we just did, that's what we did. If you'd like me to review some of the things that we discovered about her, we can do that. Might be a little easier once we have her chart on the screen. But,
Okay, I'm working on that, getting that over here.
It's
So,
on the way now. Should be getting in there right about now.
okay, I got it. Okay.
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 Yeah, what was in the natal chart? Did you guys take no? Oh, that's okay. I do know that she is 0 degrees, 0 degrees Taurus. And then I had mentioned to you, I don't know if you guys got a chance to look at it in relation to the royal family, but I do know that there is quite an affinity to eclipses throughout the royal family. With births and even deaths and things, there's a lot of correlation between the royal family in the eclipses, but her sun is 0 degrees Taurus. Now King Charles, his moon is 0 degrees Taurus. And then both of the boys, William and Harry, have planets in 0 degrees Scorpio. So there's, definitely things that are gonna go on in their lives as a result of her death, obviously, but it'll be fun to look at astrologically.
Okay, I've got the chart. Let me get it up here for you all. And, let's share the screen, and it should be right here. Can you all see the screen?
Yeah.
Okay, good. You see the chart, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll make it bigger for you.
All right. So in reference to, starting out with the natal chart, what were some of the big things that jumped out at you, or what was some of the stuff you guys found with just the natal chart?
She has Saturn and Scorpio. right? In the 11th house.
Okay, for
Uh,
everybody's edification that might not understand this chart, the inner chart is the natal chart. And Saturn's at 24 degrees Scorpio here, is that it?
Yes.
Yes.
You can all see this, everybody?
Mhm.
You can all see it?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So the inner chart is the natal chart. This is a proprietary astrological program that's no longer available, but it's an amazing one. And the inner chart is the natal chart. The middle chart is the progressed chart. And the outer chart is the transit chart. When I teach the cosmic key, I only utilize three things. I utilize the progressed moon, which would be this inner chart here, the transit Saturn, which is the outer chart, and transit Saturn is right now sitting at 20 Aquarius, which, if you noted, is sitting on top of her natal Mars on the inner chart. It's sitting on top of natal Mars and Jupiter. And also the other thing I care about in this chart is the new moons. The new moons we can calculate on the outer chart. And that new moon is going to indicate one of the three witnesses of influence that we want to find in the chart. And it's sitting at 0 degrees Virgo. And so we would look at the natal chart and we would see what it's doing as well. But I'm going to leave all that to you guys to look at. Right now, I just want you to understand the natal chart's the inner chart. The middle chart is the progressed. The only thing I care about is the progressed moon. Progressed moon is at 18 Aquarius. Okay, it's sitting also on top of Mars and Jupiter. So you've got the progressed moon and you got transit Saturn, both right here at 18 Aquarius, 20 Aquarius. And her Mars is at 20 Aquarius, joined with her Jupiter. So I'll leave it from there for you guys to work on.
Okay.
All right, well, let's first, we will find the new moon preceding the event. In this case, the event being her passing. And the most recent new moon was August 27th, 7:38 a.m. it looks like. And it happened at 4 degrees Virgo in her 7th house. Yeah, putting that next to the natal chart, what aspects did we find with the new moon, with the Virgo one?
We found with the new moon semi-square to Uranus. Let's see. Yeah. So we found a new moon that is semi-square to Uranus that is in 12 degrees Cancer. No, sorry.
Hold on here, yeah.
I'm sorry. I think I
That's okay.
got that wrong. Yeah, it's semi-square to Uranus, which is 27 degrees Pisces, right? And
How did you get a semi-square from where?
Yeah, not.
oh, did I write that down wrong? The semi-square should be, let me see, let me do this again. So, is that a semi-square to Pluto? Is that what I'm seeing here? I don't know. I wrote down a semi-square to Uranus, but now that I'm looking at the chart again, I don't see that, and I see more of the quincunx, right?
Let me help you out a little bit here. The new moon is 150 degrees from her Jupiter. I mean, her Mercury Uranus conjunction.
Right. So that's what I wrote down, right? As a
Quincunx.
That's a quincunx, right?
Right, or yeah, inconjunct it's often called as well. So that's 150 degree aspect. It's one sign outside of an opposition. So 180 degrees would be an opposition. And so anyway, so you're looking at a quincunx, or inconjunct, it's often called, aspect between Mercury and her joined Uranus here. So that was good. That's good. Now, the next thing you've seen after you did the new moon position, did you see anything else in there that was applicable to that?
Not for the new moon.
Well, it's a wide orb, but it's it's opposite her Venus there. Venus is at 13 degrees Pisces, and the new moon is 4 degrees Virgo. And like I said, that is a wide orb, but maybe something to still consider or be able to incorporate into this.
I definitely would consider that. It's something that orbs are meant not to
They're
be
flexible.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's how I look at them.
And
So
with the moon and the sun, you can, they can be stretched out a little bit further than maybe some of the other planets as well. So
you got it. You got it. So we're looking for, interestingly enough, 3 witnesses.
Mhm.
If we find 2, we can pretty much ascertain something will happen. If you find 3, it seems to be indelibly written in the heavens, something will happen. And in this case, the kind of thing that happens or could happen is a death. And in this case, we're dealing with 2 of the witnesses ganging up right on top of her Mars Jupiter. Mars is pain. It's injury. It's in Aquarius, which means it affects the masses, the social order of things, which is definitely Aquarius. Mars with Jupiter means also that it's a big event. Jupiter is always huge. It expands and it brings into focus anything to do with royalty as well. Jupiter's the kind of the royal planet. It's the largest planet. It's the planet of huge impact and influence. It expands everything. And being with Mars, of course, it causes a lot of pain. And it's in pain in what sense? The social order of the universe, which is Aquarius. Aquarius rules society at large. It rules large groups. It rules humanity. We talk about, I've heard people say, I can love humanity, but I can't love man. So sometimes I think that's really a very good observation.
that's quite Aquarius. Yeah, that's Aquarius in a nutshell, I feel like.
It is.
But all of those speaking, the Queen of England, the masses of people, the Jupiter with the royalty, these are quite literal interpretations that definitely are applied here. So the 3 witnesses, we're looking for stress aspects. So the first with the new moon, we found, so opposite of Venus, quincunx also being a stress aspect found. So that is officially our first witness. So we're 1 out of 3. Was there any, I don't know if this is a reach, but those quincunxes falling in her natal second house being, comfort kind of things. I don't know if, again, this might be a reach, but her death was, or her passing has been, she's old, so it wasn't necessarily a surprise, but I'm sure she was comfortable and well prepared for this for many reasons. She's royalty. But I think that second house could maybe give some indication of that.
Well, let me intervene here. First of all,
Yeah.
you're missing the elephant in the room. The elephant in the room is she's born with a T cross of suffering between Jupiter, Mars. It's opposing Neptune over here, which is bringing in the moon, by the way, because the moon has a wide orb. So you got her moon, Neptune, opposing what? Mars and Jupiter, squaring to Saturn, Satan, the devil. you got these all in fixed signs, which is very, very telling itself. Fixed signs are stubborn. They tend to cause long-term problems in health. It's also, it shows the kind of the stubbornness of this woman's ability to survive all these years. As you mentioned, she had COVID and she survived that. But what's going on right here is that this transit Saturn is a 20 Aquarius. It's triggering a T-cross. That's the most afflicted point of her chart. She's born with that cross, okay? So Mars and Jupiter, Neptune, and then Saturn, all three forming a perfect cross, T-cross here, not a grand cross. A grand cross would be if there was another planet down here. So how can we miss this? I mean, this is Saturn itself being triggered by transit Saturn. Transit Saturn takes about 28 years to go around the chart. The progressed moon, by the way, also takes about 28 years to go around the chart. The new moons take about 28 days to go around the chart, okay? So that's how I kind of came on this whole system. Everything was 28, and it made sense to me that Father Time is the measure of all things. Father Time is Saturn. It's the planet of karmic responsibility and karmic debt. So when we look at this transit Saturn, we know that it's roughly about every 7 years, this woman would have a crisis because it moves about a quadrant of 90 degrees, roughly, these are generalities, but roughly 90 degrees every 7 years. So, you know, you've heard the expression 7 years bad luck.
Yes.
You ever heard that? Where do you think it came from? Astrology.
Mhm.
Because people that have Saturn and the progressed moon traveling together, okay, and this is in Leo, which is very close to this cross. The progressed moon, whoops, excuse me, I'm progressed moon's out here, I'm sorry. Where did I get it? Okay, the progressed moon is moving here. Is at 18 Aquarius. Transit Saturn's at 20 Aquarius, so they're moving together. They roughly are about the same speed, a degree a month. So if you look at these two planets, it's called Saturn chasing the moon. Whenever you have a chart that Saturn and moon are combining their energies together on a cross, that means about every 7 years, that cross is going to be triggered by one point of the cross. Okay, am I making sense?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want you to learn this. This is a very important tool. Whenever you see somebody that has this cross with the moon, progressed moon, or the moon itself, and with Saturn, and in this case, if you move this natal moon up here, just a little bit, it's 12 degrees of Leo. So it's a little bit behind on that cross, but it's going to be moving with it all the time. So your progressed moon now, if you look at the progressed moon, it's at 19 degrees of Aquarius, 19 basically. So it's 1858 or 56. So that means that progressed moon and that transit Saturn are totally aligned with each other. So whatever it hits, it's going to trigger huge energies. And it's hitting the grand cross of her chart, or T cross rather, of her chart. That T cross is what's causing all of these events. It's what causes the strong karmic thing, the death, and all of the ill health. You notice Saturn is Father Time. It's the old person. It's the person that's suffering from arthritis, skeletal frame problems, skin, bones, flesh, and that's all Saturn. Saturn rules the flesh. It rules the skeletal frame, the teeth and the bones. So, you know, what she died of, I have no idea. I don't
Oh,
know.
I mean, she 96. So.
Did anybody say what she'd actually died of besides old age?
Not that I saw. No, I haven't heard of anything. I don't know.
Well,
Okay.
let me clue you in. Saturn causes calcification. It causes hardening of things, like hardening of the arteries. It
Mhm.
crystallizes, calcifies everything and when it touches it. That's why it rules the teeth and the bones. The teeth and the bones are what? Are calcified, crystallized material. So if you look at a snowflake, think about this. You look at a snowflake, every one of them are different, but every one is the same thing. It's a hexagon. You ever think about it? Have you ever heard the expression, I'm gonna put a hex on you?
Mhm.
Huh?
Yeah.
Heck, what do you think that means? I'll put a curse on you. That's Saturn's energy. It's a 666. Okay. It's a six-sided figure.
Mhm.
So the Bible talks about the number 666. Everybody wonders what it is. It's all related to the hexagon and the hexagonic structure. If you look at the astronomical picture of the Saturn in the heavens, did you know it's got a perfect hexagonic structure on its cap?
I did. I've seen that before. Yes.
Isn't it amazing?
Mhm.
You
It
know,
is. Mhm.
and you see its impinging energy. Saturn rules the cold. It freezes. It's icy. It's cold. And what does that do to a crystal of water? It makes a hexagon every time.
Mm. Mm.
All
Mhm.
those snowflakes are hexagons. You know,
Mhm.
I think
I heard Saturn.
I'd rather die of heat than cold. So
Mhm.
I don't know.
That's why we're in Florida, right?
That's why we live here, right? So-
Her natal Saturn is exactly conjunct her midheaven, just speaking to, she was bound to live a long life of, Saturn being legacy and structures, her midheaven being, being the legacy and her
Let's call it
career.
midheaven. Let's call it midheaven.
What did I say? I'm sorry. Did I not say midheaven?
You say midhaven.
Oh, okay, midheaven.
That's all right. It's good. I just want to keep you online here. So when you're communicating it's not midhaven, it's midheaven.
Medium coli. Got
Okay.
it.
Okay. So you're very good observation, by the way. Very good. Saturn's sitting right up there on the midheaven. And she was a strong advocate of duty, which is Saturn. Her leadership and her queenness was from the beginning, the very beginning, was her duty to the nation. And it wasn't about a personal thing. It was about she had a larger scope of view. That her job was to be a strong and reliable and trustworthy leader. And that's who she was.
We don't work with the North Node too often, but it is in her sixth house. North Node being like her destiny for this lifetime is in the house of duty and service.
Service, exactly. Very good. Yeah.
So
I'm not big on the nodes. I've told you that many times, but I don't tell you not to use them. I look at charts as they're messengers of God. I can give you the reasons why I don't spend too much time with nodes. I know that it bothers some people, but I also tell my students, I say, look, if it works for you, use it. Excuse me. If it's something that you find of value, then go ahead and use it. I'm not going to
it
tell
just
you.
felt relevant for her speaking on the service and duty. And like I said, it's not often used, but for this, it's just speaks to her, her legacy, her life.
Also,
Actually-
her rising sign is Capricorn too, right? So that's why I immediately look at what Saturn's doing in her chart first because of that. Right?
Very good.
Absolutely.
Very, very good observation. That brings so much of that Saturn energy there. Also, I do want to say to you one thing. The North Node is actually at 20 degrees of I got that
Cancer.
right. 20
Yep,
degrees
Cancer.
of Cancer. And
Mhm,
it's right on the cusp of the 7th.
mhm.
So I would tend to read it in the 7th if I read it that way. If a planet or an energy is within 6 or 7 degrees of the cusp, I tend to bring it into the next house. You don't have to, but that's how I read it. This is right on the cusp of the 7th. So, but these are great observations. Anything else? Anybody else want to contribute?
Now,
Destiny?
if you put it in the 7th, how would you interpret? I mean, I felt like there was Pluto in 6, very strong for service. Yeah,
Well,
definitely,
it's
definitely.
okay.
Sherry,
It's all right.
Sherry was.
Yeah.
But if go ahead.
No, I wouldn't interpret it because I don't use north nodes, okay, or south nodes. And I wish maybe I could come around to this point about these nodes, because if I put my node in my chart, I've got a perfect 5-pointed star in my chart, absolutely perfect 5-pointed star. So without it, it's one thing missing in that.
That
point.
natal Saturn is almost exactly trying her Uranus there, 27 degrees in Pisces, just showing control with change, right? So I think her life, her legacy, and related to those themes are definitely strong as well, correct?
Well, yes, it is. But also listen to this one. What we were talking about, Jupiter and Aquarius being the humanity sign. Uranus rules it. So now you got Saturn, duty and responsibility, in a perfect aspect to humanity, Uranus, and Mercury. It's communicator as well. So it's definitely, Uranus trine Saturn represents somebody who has a strong responsibility to humanity at large, okay, to the larger picture of the social order of things. And she was really big on the social order, and she's also very big on ceremony. Saturn is ceremonial, okay, it wants to do everything properly.
Tradition, right? Yeah.
Exactly, yeah, the
Mhm.
past tradition, that's Saturn. Saturn moves the past, right? So she was a big proponent of all things that were royalty and proper. I'm the opposite. I'm all Jupiterian, and I could care less about ceremonies, whether it's a wedding ceremony or anything else. You see people hung up on all this stuff, but it's okay. I'm not criticizing. I'm just saying we have different natures, okay? But she was the epitome of responsibility to humanity, to the larger social order of things, and that's Aquarius, and that is also Uranus, with that trine to Saturn. Everything speaks of this chart, speaks of responsibility and duty. And she was the truest example of that in her life. So, but we have fun with this because we could do this for the rest of the day.
Yeah. Yeah.
I wanted to bring up when I first started saying about the new moon having a semi-square to, I said Uranus, but really it was a new moon semi-square to Pluto, which is there, it's confirmed.
Oh, now you got it. That's nice. It's semi-square 45 degrees to Pluto?
Yeah, it's actually 43 degrees. So
That's absolute. That's an absolute. See, that's the death planet, Pluto. It's a transitioning, resurrecting, dying, resurrecting, all that's Pluto. And that's another, you're right, you just hit on the third major witness.
Wait, I'm sorry. You're saying the new moon is semi-square to the natal Pluto?
Yes. 43-degree difference. From what I see, right? I mean,
I was
the new moon's
looking
at 4
at it
degrees.
kind of sextile.
Well, let's look at it.
Yeah.
You got Leo, you got 30 degrees, right?
Right.
You got 4 degrees left in what, Virgo? So 34, right?
Right.
Okay. And then you got 15 degrees of roughly of the sign of Cancer.
Oh, okay. Maybe I didn't read this incorrectly. So there's, okay, so that's 34 plus there's
15.
12. Right. So 34 plus 15, that puts us at about 34 and 15 is 47.
That's still there.
Yeah, it's still there. Okay.
Yeah, you're better at math than I am. See?
I guess I'm looking at the signs, Virgo and Cancer, and then putting them 8 degrees apart with moon allowing wide orbs. In my head, just looking at it, I would call it sextile, but closer to, you say semi-square?
Well,
Yeah,
look
it's
at
47.
you've got 30 degrees in Leo, you know that, right?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Okay, and you've got only 4 degrees in Virgo.
Mhm.
So
Okay.
that's 34 degrees right there.
I see.
Now you come back down to the sign of Cancer. Okay, and look at Pluto. So it's 15 degrees into that sign. So what is it, 34, 44?
It's actually, it's 12. It's 12 degrees into that time. Just
Okay.
to make sure we're, yeah.
Yeah, so he called it right,
Mhm.
Interesting. He got a good eye, he's got a good math mind. Good for all that computer stuff. But you guys, this is the way you learn and grow. And that's why I like to form the group here. I like to see you guys doing this. I don't want to just, okay, the class is over, baloney. Class should never end. Your class should never end. And I put together a beautiful group here. Sherry, she's listening, but she can't see. But Sherry, I want you to get a small camera. They're very inexpensive, and stick it on your computer so you can join in visually as well as audibly. And I'd like for her to have I'm sorry, what? I'm
We
getting
got some feedback somewhere.
I guess I'm getting feedback. So anyway, I'd like Sherry to join you because Sherry's got a great amount of astrological wisdom. She's a great metaphysician. She's a great metaphysical preacher, teacher, and she's been around this stuff for years. And she was a previous student of mine for some time, many years ago. And we've been close friends and shared many things over the years. But here it is. Here's the bottom line is I want to see this group form. And you can add people on it as you come along. You find people that you feel can add to this group and support you. And eventually you might become a big organization. I've seen groups start out simply like this and grow to 50, 100 members. I used to lecture at a lot of them. And in California particularly, a lot of those groups. And then they support each other financially as well. The groups become very active and very social. So these are things that can come out of this. So, but you've got the start of a great thing here. And so how about you want to move on from this?
Yeah, so there's a lot of directions we could take with this. We can go right into, if you guys are interested in staying with the same theme of King Charles now, because again, his chart is very relevant and, it definitely speaks to him taking over right now. So I can send that to you as well, or you can find it. I'm not sure if his chart necessarily requires the cosmic key, or I can do that if you prefer.
Well, some of the observations you made about the relationship between these people and their placement of their planets. And in fact, I think you saw one that was very conflicted, and then one of the princes. And if I'm not mistaken, that's the one that caused a lot of problems with his relationship.
Harry, that's my favorite one.
So why don't you talk about that a little bit and share it with us? We don't have to have the chart on board.
Yeah, I'm not sure I have it all from memory, but like I said, I did know that that King Charles's moon is conjunct Queen Elizabeth's sun. So also, I believe he has Pluto. He has Pluto on the ascendant. So that is going to speak to him possibly it squares his sun and moon. He's a Scorpio sun, Taurus moon, Leo ascendant. I do know that off of the top of my head, but him kind of transforming tradition, all of those squares, Pluto on the ascendant, he might, go a different way than his mother did. That's probably the extent of my knowledge off the top of my head without actually looking at it. And then also I know that both of the boys, both William and Harry, have planets in 0 degrees Scorpio. I believe for William, it is Jupiter, and for Harry, it may be Pluto.
Okay.
I think. So those being exact opposites of the moon of Charles and the sun of
Okay,
the
well,
queen. But for Harry,
let's deal with what we know for sure. You just mentioned. You told me that that who has his moon conjunct the mother's chart?
and that's going to be Charles. His moon is conjunct his mother's sun.
Do you know what that aspect does? Anybody? If I was dealing with a married couple, it's a perfect marriage. It can be, okay. Of course, there's a lot of things that can interfere with that and the aspects, but the point being, you have a merging of the moon and the sun. That's the soul and the spirit. And you have a unifying force there that's very powerful. You also have somebody, when whoever's the moon in that conjunction, as opposed to the sun, whoever has the moon there has generally is much more submissive to the sun. And that you'll see in a marriage. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I hadn't heard that before, but that makes sense because the moon is receptive, right? It's
exactly. It tends to yield to the soul, the spirit, which is the sun, which is the exercising of one's will. So one's will subverts and kind of controls the very malleable moon, which is very receptive and open. And so we find that the unity of those two can be a perfect marriage. Now, in this case, it's a mother and a son. It's the same point. The message being that there's a high degree of the sun has a high degree of influence and power over that moon. And the moon would tend to, the person that has the moon, in this case Charles, would tend to be more receptive to the leanings of the mother in this case. Is that all you understand?
actually that's appropriate. Through all the years, you haven't heard of, or to my knowledge, heard of any kind of difficulties or anything between those two.
Never. Yeah.
Always been on the same page, at least for public knowledge.
Hmm.
Yeah. She.
Wow. Go ahead.
I think what was one of her sons, the one that was causing a lot of problems?
Harry.
Yeah. I mean, I think it was one of her favorite grandsons. I mean, they didn't get any titles, no, not now. But it's an amazing thing. If you're English and you're living in Britain, I mean, you think we've got some knowledge here. And you imagine people living in the country that they spend all their time on the royalties and what's going on in their life. We don't in this country as much, but the nice thing about you, Vanita, is you're really good at pulling up things that are very current and very important. I think that the fact that you picked this time was more than providential. I think you somehow are attuned to things on a level that most people aren't. And the fact that you picked this chart and said we should do this chart next time we do it, and not knowing that she passed away, I had to write you and send you an email. She passed away today. Was and it was, I think, a day or two before you said we're going to do Queen Elizabeth's chart. But you have that attunement, and I think that's something that's part of your gift. and it's going to be seen a lot. That's why I keep encouraging you to write the book. You've got a chapter of a book right here. So,
This could be a book, to be honest.
exactly. And the other thing that's really important here, and we kind of overlooked it as we kind of run through this for somebody that's watching us and curious about what's going on, and maybe they have some astrology knowledge at all. But this is probably the most accurate depiction of a cosmic key influence than you could ever get. The fact that you've got the moon and Saturn traveling the exact same place, same time, sitting right on top of Mars and Jupiter. I would think that there was maybe a lot of pain in this transition, but I'm sure she was medicated and had said it to keep her from suffering that.
I do want to say the royal family in general is a great data bank for astrology because they're so well documented. Everybody has an exact time of their birthday. Their entire lives are, for the most part, public. So especially, the big events. So tracking transits and, they're just so well covered in the media that it's gold for astrological research. I do like celebrities and to go to celebrities in general because of that same reason, but the royal family is, I think the royal family could be a book and not a chapter.
That's for sure. Absolutely. There's a lot of astrological work that's been done on the birth times of peasants, for example, a peasant that was born exactly on the same day of one of the royalties, and they find that that royal king or queen, I don't really care the story, but they're written. I've come across them over the years. Has just acquired a stable of horses, and the peasant just acquired a mule. And they say it happened at the same time because they were born the same time and same place roughly, and so they'll make these parallels. There's a great book called if I can remember one thing. It was based on astrological twins, and trying to recall the name of it, but amazing stories of I remember there were two kids they were born 20 miles apart, same hospital, same time, and they followed their lives, and on prom night they both had to travel to respective communities of each other, and they met head on in a collision and died, both of them.
Wow.
What's the odds? You know what I'm saying?
Oh.
Yeah. And there's been a lot of documentation of astrological twins, and I've even seen these stories of twins that are born that they find out later they didn't know each other because they were adopted, and then they find each other, and all of a sudden one of them's a policeman, one's a fireman.
Yeah, I've heard of that too.
You probably have seen those stories.
Yeah.
There was a story I remember a few years back about two twins that were derelicts. They didn't have much of a life, and one of them died by an accident, and then the other one was found dead the next day. Same situation, similar. I mean, just you look at all this and you say that what's the odds of all this happening? I think that I'm not very good at I'm Sagittarius. I'm not like the trivia guy that knows and remembers all this stuff.
Do you have an astrological twin? Do you know if someone famous was born on the same day, or even just with the same like big three or anything like that?
No, I really don't. I wish I did.
It would be interesting to
Well, hopefully they didn't have the life I had.
for anybody to know or look up, and maybe the rising sign maybe wouldn't be the same.
Yeah, with our son Andre, and the circle he moves in, it's a very high tech community he moves in, and both scientifically and technologically. And when I proposed and I wrote my book, The Cosmic Key, one of his friends said, "Oh, that would be easy to document. We can get all of the records of all the deaths, and we can use the same equipment. I mean, the same strategy to see and identify if it works, and that could be done. There's a lot of things. There's questions. I have questions. I think there's national charts that impinge on things. I mean, obviously, when Hiroshima was bombed, or Nagasaki, and millions or tens of thousands of people perished in a moment, it wasn't all written in their charts. You know what I mean? I don't think so. Also, how about an airplane that goes up and 150 people perish in an airplane accident?
Yeah, I've always wondered about that. Like when masses, that I don't know. I always question.
I think there's karmic influences there. National, like a nation has karmic responsibilities that can impinge on it and override other things that you might, your personal chart. So obviously, you look at Ukraine today. I mean,
Have you ever found that? Have you ever found that like national things like Trump, someone's personal chart? Have you ever encountered that?
I'm not one to, I've tried to I am very much the astrologer for a person. I can do that wonderfully. There are charts, and I've got books of national on nations charts, for example, the United States. There's a lot of charts have been drawn for that, 1776, and when did the actual start of the nation occur? And I've looked into it a lot, but I've also learned something in life, and that was, I've always been interested in things like handwriting analysis, palmistry. There's something to it. These lifelines and all this stuff, and when I was studying astrology, I was tempted very often to get involved in different disciplines because I have a love for that, and there's something about me that's drawn to all that stuff. But I also realized eventually, I said that if I keep digging holes in different places, I'm going to find no water. I've got to be able to dig deep enough where I really can find what I'm looking for. And in astrology, I decided to keep very one purposefully oriented. I didn't want to be constantly flipping back and forth between disciplines, and not getting anywhere on any of them.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah.
Yeah. So I've always been very committed to staying with one discipline very much. And there's all sorts of astrology. There's financial astrology. There's medical astrology, which is very interesting. There's a lot of beautiful work being done in that area. Even nutritionists can use astrology and understanding the relationship. The alchemists of old knew a lot of astrology. They understood the different salts, they call them. They understood how calcium and magnesium play roles. Magnesium being magnifying. It's kind of like you take it to keep the muscles from contracting so much. Okay, magnesium. And what is that? That's very Jupiterian, isn't it? Then you've got the calcium.
Basic mineral salts, by the way, which is 12 Jupiter's time that it takes to orbit. There's 12 basic mineral salts. Sorry to cut you off, but in addition to what you're saying.
No, you're adding, you're not cutting me off.
Yeah.
Those are, and I've gotten involved a little bit with it, and I think that it's an area that you could spend your life exploring. The alchemists of old, they always say they were turning wanted to turn lead into gold. Well, think about what that really was, metaphorically. Really think about what it meant. Saturn rules lead, gold rules the sun. So changing lead into gold is kind of like transforming the basis element, metal, into a glorious metallic gold.
Yeah, that's literally what Saturn does. That's physically what the planet of Saturn does. It turns those liquids into like a metallic thing.
That's
It
right.
transforms them.
Yeah, exactly. And when we're talking about these stories of these alchemists of old that could translate lead into gold, I think they were, we're translating really baser energies into gold when we praise and give thanks. Think about it. When you're cursing and you're doing all the Saturn things that Saturn wants you to do, Satan, the devil, the serpent, right? When you're cursing everything and finding fault with yourself and others, which is what the accusing spirit is all about. Once you transcend in that, you get above that and you start praising everything and giving thanks and knowing that it's all working together for good. Let me tell you something. The early Christians were the most amazing optimists that existed on this earth. They really were. And I would say the true Christian today has to be one of the most optimistic people that exist on this planet today. What does that mean? It means if I really truly believe all things are working together for good, which is what Scripture tells me, if I truly believe that, what have I got to fear or worry about? Nothing. I mean, that's optimism of a faith that you can't. I mean, Stephen's being stoned to death and he's praising the Lord. What kind of faith? What kind of faith can allow you to do that? People throwing rocks at you, people throwing rocks at you, whether it's symbolically or true. I mean, people get upset so early, so easy. Oh, somebody said this or said that. And then they frown all day and they get upset. And they're really worried about it. I say it's, the old saying, sticks and stones can break my bones, but what is it? Words can't ever hurt me. We get so caught up in our minuscule little life, our small egos, that we let somebody ruin an entire day of our life because they say something, because they speak to us poorly, because they didn't smile when they walked past us, because they ignored us. Oh my God, the world's too big a place for this kind of stuff. And in fact, I sometimes think that, you've heard me say it before, the self is too small an object for perpetual enthusiasm. You get bored with yourself. People are bored. You know why they're bored? Because they're self-preoccupied. They're so caught up in themselves, they don't see the world outside themselves. They don't have time to say, hi, how you doing? What's happening with your family? My wife's family is in Russia. You know how few people ever in her life would say something, how's your family? How are they doing in Russia? They because they have no, it's like the child, they have no concern for anybody but themselves. And so they get bored with themselves because the self is not able to manifest enough enthusiasm. You're going to get bored with yourself real quick. So it's the people that are giving and loving and sharing and outside themselves that are fulfilled in life. And that you look at these kids today, and a lot of them are so preoccupied with themselves. They spend hours and hours, worrying about their makeup and their stuff. Blondes have more fun, so I'll dye my hair. Excuse me, but it's not all about that. It's about loving others, loving yourself, and then getting outside yourself. So I didn't mean to get going on that tantrum there, but
No, you're okay. I wanted to point out on that subject, getting outside of yourself. I mentioned this the other day, I think to Gerald and Destiny maybe. So Mercury never gets more than how many degrees from the sun? Like
I think it's 45 or 30, 45.
something like that.
Maybe.
So if you think about it,
Something happened?
I'm not sure.
What
No.
I
happened?
don't know.
You okay, Jared?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Right.
Okay, so being that, so for everybody, this is for every living person on the planet, that Mercury doesn't get far enough away from the sun to think outside of ourselves. So the way we perceive information can never be too far away from the ego, from the sun. So no, we don't have the capacity to think outside of ourselves. This life, our journey for this life, is the universe experiencing itself, its ego, right? The
Right.
sun, ego. So it's just an interesting thing to kind of sit and think about, that the way we perceive information can't escape our ego, you know, too far. So it's always within so many degrees, whatever it is, of the sun.
That's why
maybe-
that's why you have a talent for astrology, because you can see things like that. That's thinking outside the box. And you have a gift for this stuff. You really do. You have no idea who you are and what talents you have. I think also I used to do investigation of earthquakes when I was in prison. And I began to see a relationship between the planetary positions and earthquakes. And so we collated a lot of my work, and the greatest quake on this earth was in Fairbanks, Alaska, back in 1964, I believe it was. It was 8 point something on the Richter scale. If it had happened in LA, it'd have been millions of people dead. If it had happened anywhere else, it would have been amazing. But it was Fairbanks, Alaska. And it also caused a great tsunami. But the reason I documented that quake, and I was amazed what I found. And I sent all my material to the Coast and Geodetic Survey in Washington, hoping that they would give some interest in this planetary influences. And I never heard back from them. But I submitted everything I had. And then several months later, I happened to read a newspaper article about a professor that got a grant for this $25,000. Back then it was a lot of money. Maybe it was more, I don't recall, but it was, I think, $25,000. He was granted that money to do the research on my material. And yeah, they posted it, you know, he showed all these things that I had submitted. So I thought, well, that's interesting. You know, they could have at least given me a thumbs up, Ron, you did a great job. But, you know, I was nobody, I was in prison, so it didn't matter. The reason I share that, I'll share with you the chart of the quake. I want to blow you guys away with this. If I can do this, I'll do it. Let me see.
Yeah.
It will amaze you. Let me go back to let me tell you what, I'll just give you a prelude to what it's, before I show you the chart. I have to bring it up here, but the sun was, it was a full moon event. The sun was sitting between Mercury and Mars. And you know, the reason this was brought up to me was because of Vanita, talking about Mercury not leaving the sun. This Christ, when he was crucified, and what I'll show you, is that the sun is on a cross. And Christ said, when he was crucified, he said to the thief, he said, "This day thou shalt be with me in paradise." Mercury's the thief. You think about it, all the knowledge you've had, you've stolen it from somebody, you know, you were all thieves in that sense, okay? So Mercury's the thief. So this day thou shalt be with me in paradise. You know why? Because Mercury never leaves the sun, not very far. Mars was the killer, was the bad guy this side. That was a different story. He wasn't blessed by God or by Christ when he was crucified. But the point I'm getting at is that these astrological influences are so accurate and so amazing, they're scary. Let me explain to you when this earthquake happened. It happened on Good Friday. How many of you know when Good Friday, what does that commemorate?
That's the day before, well, it's the Friday before Easter, which is also the Friday nearest the spring equinox, right?
Yeah, it also is the day he was crucified, right?
Right, also the day he was crucified. Mhm.
Okay, so it happened, this quake happened on Good Friday, and it happened the 9th hour of daylight. That's when the
Mm.
Christ was crucified. The 9th hour of daylight. What's the odds of
Mm.
this, right? Then you do the chart and you see that the sun is sitting right on a perfect cross in that chart. And I've got that chart and I submitted it to Coast and Geodetic, thinking they gotta be interested in this, you know? So I'll show you the chart if you'd like, and we'll take a look at it real quick. Let me see if I can get it here. First, let me share the screen. Let's go to astrology here. Okay. Okay. Anybody want to continue with this discussion? Let's see. Okay. Let's see if I.
Mars and Uranus would be two planets involved in earthquakes, right? In some way.
Very
Some,
often is, yes, yeah.
yeah.
So,
The sign Taurus, maybe being resources, natural resources.
you know, I never noticed that, but it could be. I'm when you see this chart, you'll realize how accurate it is. It's amazing to me. If I can bring it up, I've got to figure out how to get into this program. Usually I have everything set up before I do this, so.
I was going to ask you anything I can help you with or send over.
No, I've got to
You
find
need-
the chart. I've got it in my program. I've just got to get
Oh,
it.
it's a.
Let me get out of
Okay.
here. So I hope I don't lose you. I'm going to try this. Okay, I can get time passages up. I did it. Good. File. Okay, I got it here. All right. Okay. Well, thought I had it here. Let me see. Hang on. There it is. Okay, good. Now let's try to share the screen again. Okay. Since I didn't know I was going to do this, okay, now we got it. Okay, here it is. Okay. All right, I got it. I got it here. Okay. Now I want to share. This is amazing. Okay. This is the full moon. Look at can you all see this? Y'all got it? Share screen? Did I share it?
Mhm.
Look at, this is the Alaskan quake, May, what is it, March 27th, 1964, 8.6 on the Richter scale. I mean, that's an unbelievable quake. And look, you look at the moon here and the sun, exact full moon, 7/7. See it?
Oh yeah, exact full moon.
Yeah. And then, trying to remember where I would, so the sun is on the left side is Mars, on the right side it's way up here, but it's Mercury. But that the thief and the robber were on both sides of the cross. Here's the opposition, and if you look at the cross is set up interestingly enough. It's with Uranus, as you mentioned, Anita. It's Saturn opposing Uranus and Pluto, okay? And it's wide orb, but it's squaring Venus over here, and then Neptune down here. So you've got the cross with Saturn, Uranus, Pluto. And these are wide orbs, but Neptune and Venus all on a cross, and the sun setting right on that cross. The fact that it happened on Good Friday, the 9th hour of daylight, it really moved a lot of Christians to wonder about that, but they didn't have the astrological wisdom to put that together and look at it and see what could be related. So anyway, and then you've got that Aries Mars energy from the sun in March, very violent energy. So, I used to, I had literally books of quakes I did. I used to get, at least they gave me the Coast and Geodetic Survey, sent me into prison. They sent me all the records of every earthquake on Earth. And I was able to look through them and see which ones were of paramount importance and was strong. And this is an example of it. So I don't want to get into it too much, but I just want you to realize there's a lot more to astrology. The more you study, the more you're going to realize that, you could go on so many different branches, from medical astrology, political astrology. You could get into national astrology. I have a book. It's called the book of, I think it's all the charts of all the countries around the world and the birth charts. Yeah,
I want that. Do you know what that's called? Will you send me a picture of that? I would like that. I could see Destiny or Gerald doing financial, or like with the stock markets.
Yeah, I've done that.
Either of them. I am obviously
Not me.
Really?
Math isn't.
I would look
Oh,
into
no,
that.
no, no.
Okay.
Math and numbers aren't my forte.
I'm thinking of Gerald for math and numbers. I was thinking of you for just money.
Like the oh yeah. Yeah.
Like just being like money focused and conscious, but I was thinking of math for Gerald or numbers, but and then also I feel like you would be, good with like the synastry or something of that nature. I am too involved in the psyche or the natal charts or the psychology of it to even.
Yeah. I
got my hands full with this. I don't see me having room for anything else, but I could definitely see. But I hear a lot about I know that the United States is experiencing its Pluto return currently, which is, interesting.
Yeah.
There's a lot
There's
of
a book
stuff.
that you'd be interested in.
Will you raise it? The Circle Book of Charts.
Look what's inside of this. If you can see it, I could flip pages and pages and pages. It's got charts of presidents and everything you can think of.
Oh my gosh, Ron,
look at this.
Wow.
How's this?
And I think I had mentioned to you before, I don't know if you remember, but I have a weird thing for presidents. Ever since I was a little girl, I've always been interested. Wow.
You could do that with this book real easy. It gives all the information in there.
Can you tell me the author really quick? Do you mind?
Let's see if it's got an author's name. It doesn't.
If not, that's okay. The title should be enough.
It's compiled by Stephen Earlywine.
Okay.
Stephen Earlywine, I've met him. He's he has a company that actually does astrology, charting, and other things, and he's it's called Circle Books. It's in Ann Arbor, Michigan.
That's where Gerald's from.
Yeah, I've been up there to Michigan and met him, Grand Rapids, and been and talked to him. I helped them devise some of their astrological tools. There, they used to have one of the first programs out, what's called let's see if I remember it. I named it for them, but the name of because they were doing a convention, and I said, you're going to introduce this program. I said, call it Astro Talk, and he did.
You told me, yeah, I remember you talking about.
It was one of the first. When I was doing radio shows for years, I used to use it a lot because it was very quick to bring it up and to access the chart.
Speaking of your radio shows, Gerald and I were wondering, Well, so we're very familiar with the one that you have posted for the V card and on YouTube. Do you have any more of those recordings at all? We'd be interested in any or all of them that were.
I have, they were back then, I were all taped on
That's okay. I could find
audio
some.
tape, yeah. And I don't know if I could even find them and bring them up, but I used to have hundreds of them, radio shows.
Well, if you do ever find them, you have a couple of people that would be
Yeah.
very interested in.
Yeah, they
Yeah,
could be,
absolutely.
they could be digitized and brought into
That would be
tape.
Gerald.
So,
Yeah,
there's so much, I used to collect them for every time I did a show. I had the tape was given to me by the stations, and I used to do a lot of work with editing tapes. I was good at all that. I spent a lot of time doing it. But anyway, enough of me. Enough of that. I really want you all to just keep the enthusiasm. I was so excited to see Destiny and Jared get together and spend time without any incentives from me, pushes, just to make sure that they're so generating excitement with their astrology, and they're spending time collaborating together. Vanita, you're a gifted, talented lady. I want to see you move on and get on with this. I'm going to be dropping off soon. It's going to be up for you guys to work together and keep this together and keep this running. I think you have a group that can grow together, support each other. And when you do a chart, you can collaborate together, share the chart. That's how you do it. And say, can you help me out? I'm going to do a reading here, and just don't call me because I'll give you all the bad information.
Don't say that. That's not true.
I know one of the first
There's
charts you
other
did.
information from you. You're allowed to.
Anyway, when the first chart she did, she called me and says, "Hey, look at the chart for me." And I was so off base, it was unbelievable. Anyway, but she still got over it and did the good reading. But look here it is. There's so many things in astrology. After I check out here today, I'm going to think, oh, I forgot to tell them this. I forgot to tell them that. I could have shared this. And I also would like to share my library with you guys. I think that I'll give you this book, the Circle Book of Charts of Anita. It'll be my gift to you. I've got so much here. When we left the Boston area in Massachusetts, we moved to Florida. I had so many books, literally, and I had a beautiful finished basement. I finished the basement. It was beautiful. It was my work area. And we had books that were literally 8-10 feet high piles of books that I just had to let go of. And just
No, don't tell me that.
I did.
I don't think I've ever showed any of you guys my library, my collection. It's impressive. It's not Ron's level by any means, but
yeah, it's hard to let go of books. I mean, a lot of those books I carried out of prison, even. You know what I mean? I kept them. But the thing is, you get attached to books because they're like friends.
That's the truth. I miss them. Like if they're in storage or something, I like miss them like they're a person. I need them around me. So I agree with that.
And I refer back to, you referred a lot when I was writing, and I would search out and find things that were tidbits of this or that. So anyway, remind me, we'll get this over to you, and this book would be good for you because it'll give you a wealth of charts and presidents, probably every president up until the time you wrote this book. And there's so many other things. There's little things like there's a little thing called I think I sent it to some of you, or maybe one of you. See if I can find it. Here's one here. I could give this to somebody how to give an astrological health reading.
Ah, that's a good one.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
there's
that
so much,
sounds awesome.
this is just, there's so many things. I mean, you can get into that. You can spend, that's why, I spent 9 years in prison and I could stay entertained all the time. I mean, I couldn't, what could keep me entertained for 9 years in a cell? That could keep me stimulated and alive and growing, learning. Astrology is that way. You go so many different ways once you get into it. And there's a wealth, so much stuff here. I just pull any book off of here. I don't know what I'm going to get. But, you can't get too much in the astrology books, because everything you read, you'll grow with. It's like some of it, I might only get one sentence out of a book if I read the entire book, but I realize that's why I read it. For
I
example,
referenced him several times. I use these books
here's
daily.
a couple of books here.
Oh my goodness, Ron, let's
I'm
talk
just
about
pulling-
these
just
books
pulling-
after this class. Let's talk about these books. You're
You're welcome to. The thing is that, I mean, I
you don't have to give them to me, but I am very interested in driving up to see you and taking some weight off of your shoulders.
This is an amazing book. This is one of the best authors in the world. Her name is Ellen McCaffrey. And this book is called Astrology and Its Influence on the Western World. Amazing book. I learned so much from this woman. I never would have known about Jupiter. It had two names in the old days. It's called Pluvius and it's called Tonans. And Pluvius was I believe, the sender of rain, and our Tonans was the sender of rain, and Pluvius was the lightning bolt. So you know how Jupiter's depicted sometimes as the lightning bolt. Most of us know that, throwing down thunder and lightning. But Jupiter also was called the sender of rain. And I have Jupiter in Pisces when I was born on a grand cross. So,
It rains diamonds on Jupiter,
Huh?
right? It rains diamonds on Jupiter.
Really? I didn't know that.
Like literally, yeah, it rains diamonds on Jupiter, literally.
Well, Jupiter's Jesus, I told you that many times. Did you know that if it wasn't for Jupiter, this planet wouldn't survive? Did you know that?
I didn't know that, but it sounds about right. It's almost like everything in the solar system needs to be there, right?
Yeah, the reason, let me explain why. Jupiter is a huge, monstrous planet, and its gravitational force is strong. And it intercepts so many comets that we would be inundated by in this planet. If it wasn't for Jupiter intercepting them, we would be bombarded all the time and destroyed. So Jupiter is literally the savior of the Earth. Isn't that interesting?
It is.
So, you who put all this together, right? You ever think about it? Who in the hell had the genius to put it all together? These old wizards of old days. That's why I like to read things. Like there's a book out called The Sorcerer's Handbook. And sorcery, that's, the Christians have a hard time with that thing. But a lot of the mysteries are hidden in these old books, these so-called sorcerers. They've been demonized because the church doesn't want anybody to get into these areas. They don't want you to know this. They don't want you to understand how Saturn became Satan. They don't want you to understand that, that what they teach and what they preach is not the fundamental truth. It's fundamental, but it's not true. That so much astrology is in the Bible. They don't want you to know that either. So I don't know how they explain things when, it says the stars in their courses fought against Sisera. I don't understand why they have a hard time with astrology, because without the stars fighting against the seraph, he wouldn't have lost the battle. You know, they fought against him, he lost the battle, right? So how do they fight against you if they have no influence? The
Right.
very first verse of the Bible says that he created the sun, the moon, the stars for signs and for seasons. Not just for seasons, but for signs and for seasons. One of the top scholars in this country who wrote a review of my book, and he said the first thing he said was he never read that and understood it until that book, until I pointed out that scripture, that it's for signs and for seasons, not just for seasons. So, you know, it's the heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament showeth his handiwork. Night unto night showeth knowledge, and day unto day uttereth speech. The actual translation of the signs in the heavens was not the heavens declare the glory of God, it was the planets declare the glory of God, and the firmament of the heavens showeth his handiwork. Night unto night showeth knowledge, day unto day uttereth speech, and there is no speech nor language where their voice is not heard. Moreover, by them is thy servant warned, and in keeping them, keeping what? The planet's positions, is their great reward. In keeping them, by them is thy servant warned, and in keeping them is their great reward. So their line goeth out throughout the earth. Those are the aspects, the lines that they talk about. Okay, the lines go out. It says there's no speech nor language where their voice is not heard. Did you know that astrology is a universal language? If I take my chart to India, they can understand those symbols. You know, it's a universal language. Okay, so you can't change it too much. You can't make it. Maybe you can make it into Chinese in a different way, I guess. I don't know what they do with Chinese astrology. I'm sure they use these symbols.
Gerald knows, ask him. Or
Yeah.
Japanese.
Yeah. Anyway,
Yeah.
but you guys, you know, you have so much fun with all this. You know, it'll keep you entertained, believe me. And hopefully you never have to get locked up for 29 years or whatever and suffer that solitude. But you know, that solitude served me well. It kept me sane. Astrology kept me sane. Astrology brought my wives. I have to say wives because I've been married more than once. It's brought me love. It's brought me fulfillment and friends. It's brought me so much. How can you measure something like this? You know,
Amazing.
it brought me a
Amazing.
career. It brought me a livelihood. Who would have thought? You know, I went to prison 9 years, and in those 9 years, that all these blessings would come from astrology. Think about it. Think about it.
Yeah, it's incredible.
It is.
It really is.
So, you know, and then let's come back to the fundamental single most important thing that we can remember. After all the talk and all of this stuff, and to keep it so simple, 3 scriptures: all things work together for good for them that love God. All things. Okay, my neck ache. Praise the Lord, thank you. I don't know why I had it, but it was bad. A lot of pain. So I still have to praise and give thanks because I know that all things are working together for good. Why? I don't understand. Okay. And the other 2 scriptures are, let the fruit of your lips be the sacrifice of praise. If you lived on these 3 scriptures, you'd be fine. Let the fruit of your lips be the sacrifice of praise. The fruit of your lips. You don't feel like praising God when you're going through pain or suffering. You don't feel like praising God when your dog gets hit by a car. You don't feel like it, but you do it. Why? Because it's a sacrifice. It's a sacrifice of your lips to praise and give thanks. The other scripture is what is Christ? What does it say in the scripture about you? What God's will is for you? That's more. It's the hardest one sometimes, and that's rejoice evermore. You try to be joyful every day. I woke up today, I felt like, you know what? I did not feel like doing anything. My wife says, you're grumpy today. I said, no, I'm just tired. Didn't want to admit I was grumpy, but I knew I was grumpy. So rejoice evermore. Pray. It says pray. Nobody's going to pray all the time. Praise without ceasing. And in all things give thanks, for this is the will of God concerning you. If we can stay focused on those few scriptures, only 3 that you need to know. Okay. And then you begin to teach others how to purify their souls. What does the scripture say? Seeing you purified your soul in the disciplining of your spirit, in the unfeigned love of your brethren. How do you purify your soul? You love each other. You love each other. Okay, but a man can't love his wife if he doesn't love himself. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. A man can't love his wife unless he loves himself. So when you have to, that self-love is just as important as loving others. And there are times you wake up and everything looks ugly and everything looks bad and everything looks negative. And you say, how do I get out of this, Lord? Praise and give thanks anyway. Trust in good. So those dark nights of the soul, we all have them. And when we do, you just lift up your voice in praise and thanksgiving and trust in good. I could tell you so many stories where I've gone through these kind of moments in my life where I just feel overwhelmed. And we all have them. It's part of the whole trip of Saturn, trying to get you to curse and see what's lacking instead of what abundance you have in your life. Half full or half empty in your life. So it's up to you to choose. So when you start thinking about what's lacking, start thinking about what you do have. That's beautifully filling. You live more like a king. My friend Phil, who I wish he could have come on with us. He's going through a lot of physical stress right now with leukemia and Parkinson's disease, but he's been an advocate of praise and thanksgiving for ever since we started teaching him that in 1978. And he's taught others. Phil said some amazing things. He says, he sent me, I said, Phil, start writing stuff down for me. I said, you've got so many one-liners, they're just amazing. And here on that, he finally said some stuff he wrote. What I'm getting at, he makes the point. He says most of us live lives far superior to most kings that have walked this earth. We have more entertainment, we have more mobility, we have more food, we have more sanitation, we have more medical support, we have so many things. And the kings of old would have loved to have all the things we have. And they would feel like, my God, I'm so blessed. Look what I got. But we take it all for granted. We don't realize how blessed we are. So I get sick, I can go to a doctor right away, and there's someone on every corner down here somewhere, especially in Florida, all those old people. Oh, there's somebody out here that's going to help fix me up and give me antibiotics or give me whatever I need so I don't die. So, and then you look at Ukraine, you see what's happening over there, and you think, God, am I ever blessed? I don't have to dodge bombs all the day, and I don't have to worry about my family all being wiped out and killed. And you cry and complain because you're not getting something in your life now. How can you measure all that out? Am I being too preachy?
No, Ron.
I'm thankful, right?
Yeah, and you've taught me that, and it's changed my life, and I will forever be grateful to you for those things. How many times I have written in my notes, like purify soul, discipline of spirit is numerous, 10, 15, 20 times, but it pushes it into my subconscious or my unconscious, and it has changed my life for the better. You're never preachy.
Well, when we realize what the scriptures are saying, they were the greatest psychologists on this planet. When they say whatsoever things are pure, just, good, lovely, if there be any virtue, any praise, anything of good report, think on these things. Well, why would you want to do that? Why? I can think of a lot of things that are going on in the world today. I watch the news. I can watch the news. I could cry every day. I watch sadness of animals being mistreated and innocent children dying, and the litany of things. And how do I praise all this? I say, Lord, how can I praise all this? how can all this be working together for good? You know, you say maybe it'll bring Putin down to his level he needs to be brought down to, but what a price to pay. Anyway, enough of all this. I love you guys. You know, you keep loving each other, taking care of each other, supporting each other. You know, you'll have an impact on this planet. And you learn and study because, you know, it says, well, there's a scripture that says, how's it go? Study and show thyself worthy. I forgot. It's basically it's what it says. It's study and show thyself worthy. You know, study, keep your mind active. You know, don't allow yourself to get into that dementia state. Okay, which people die, they just literally dry up. Okay, so keep yourself alive with enthusiasm. Remember what it means. And theos, God within you. So if you got to get enthused about dancing, do that. If it's enthused about astrology, do that. I tell people, I say, get alive, wake up, you know, smell.
Wake up, the opposite of the cosmic key.
Yeah.
Wake up.
You got it, wake up. You know, most people are sleeping. You know, there's a scripture, I remember one of the scriptures that I always read a lot when Christ was asked to go to a funeral or something. He said, let the dead bury the dead. I always thought about that. Sometimes I think about it in my life today, and people are doing something that's so unimportant, you know, and they're so dead. They have no soul. They're not alive. They're just walking zombies, you know, worried about the things that are so unimportant and really just mean nothing. And their whole lives are taken up with their pettiness, like the lives of, what does it show, the secret lives of the Hollywood or whatever, these, you know, Texans or all these women that are so lost in their lives, looking for love in all the wrong places. And anyway, I'm gonna be going, guys. I'm gonna get off of here and let you guys go. I love you guys, and thanks for being here and being part of my life. You bring me a lot of good in life, invigorating to me. I'm losing it here a little bit, so I'm gonna check out. Stay online or get back online if you want, or maybe you want to take a bite and get a bite to eat or something. Take a break, but I'm gonna check out. I love you guys. Take care.
Thanks so
Run.
much, Rob.
I love you too.
Okay, bye, guys.
Thank you.
Bye, dear.
Bye.